Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Marigold. Me. In my series of Freemasonry and Satanism. I haven't made a video in a few days because I've been pondering this vast amount of research I've been doing and trying to contemplate where I want to go next and try to answer some questions that arise from the investigation. And of course the investigation is Freemasonry and Satanism, a name I gave it to try to connect the dots with everything, knowing there's Freemasonic lodges in every city and town all over the world. And even Satanism, serpent beings, in the Mexican Mayans, all over the world. There's the snake. Ecuador, China, Egyptian hieroglyphics, American Indians. So Freemasonry and Satanism. And apparently Freemasonry is a derivative of the Jewish culture of the Kabbalah. And apparently there are some prophecies of the Jewish culture in the Kabbalah and throughout history. I guess with these people being told prophecy by some divine revelation that they will rule the world. And of course we have the UFO alien question, issue, propaganda, problem, whatever you want to call it. It seemed to come out of nowhere around 1946. It's always been around throughout history, these different kinds of entities. But somebody seems to be focusing it clearly to be UFO ships, alien beings, reptilians, tall whites, gray aliens, blue aliens, gray aliens, and insectoids even. Some very bizarre new reality teaching. I've embarked on a very interesting quest recently, which I will be sharing in future videos, maybe a little snapshot in this video. But notice with all these people proclaiming this new age religion and this ascension and prophecy, that we're all going to change. So I've been investigating channeling. Wow. I mean, I was already into it a little bit. Remote viewing, Edgar Casey, Tim Rifat, David Morehouse, remote viewing. And of course, prophets throughout history. Then Jesus, the Messiah. The Judaica, Encyclopedia Judaica, when I was making the videos about the Kabbalah. This Helena Blavatsky on the Theosophist Society, the foundation of the New Age religion. And one of the magazines, the publishing company and magazines that they formed many years ago, the early 1900s, was the Lucifer Publishing Company. And Lucifer magazine later changed to Lucas, which still means light. So the channeling research I've been doing with some very well-known names we will look at seems to have a constant theme to it. It's this new religion. So I thought I would revisit this book, The Reappearance of the Christ, which I did part 1 on series 96. So this will be part 2. Because like I said, I've been listening to some of these channelers. Even the stuff that David Wilcock talks about. Esther Hicks. The Ra series. And there's, again, all this New Age. Readings from angels, from masters. So this book tells a little bit about the new doctrine. Maybe a little explanation for the conversation we're having right now. But there's some weird things about this book. Whoever had it before me, they've been several owners, but they were serious students of this reappearance of the Christ. And you can notice that X there looks like it's done in blood. And you can notice it's Lucas Publishing Company, New York, Lucas Press Limited, London. And Lucas, if you go look it up on Wikipedia, was Lucifer Publishing Company, Lucifer magazines. So I did acquire several magazines and books by this Lucifer Publishing Company. So the reappearance of the Christ. So I did pre-read some material, and I think I'll share it in this video and see if we can make some sense of the philosophy of this New Age religion, understanding that this seems to be the same philosophy teaching with the Freemasonry, Rosicrucian, and the other occultic secret society teachings. And apparently the Zionist portion of it is the Jewish people, not all Jewish people, but a portion of them, greater or less than 50% worldwide, I don't know, and I really don't want to speculate. I know there are a lot of intelligent Jewish people, anywhere from professors and rabbis and other people, politicians and wealthy people. One wealthy man owned a large soap company, spent his entire fortune, a Jewish man, trying to get the word out about this Zionist program of manipulating the world into a new way of thinking, and that they were going to be the aristocrats of the world, these elite Jewish aristocrat types. And they've acquired a lot of the wealth and control of the world right now. Make no mistake about that. So the chapter 6 is called The New World Religion. Go figure that. And if you want to just read it yourself, you can pause it. The world today is more spiritually inclined than ever before. So when I read that, I said, wait a minute, I don't think so. So let's listen to the next sentence. This is said with a full realization of the generally accepted idea that the world of men is on the rocks spiritually, and that at no time has the spiritual life of the race of humans been at such a low ebb. So that was kind of contradictory there. The first sentence said, the world today is more spiritually inclined than ever before, and then it says it's never been at such a low ebb. A low point. This idea is largely due to the fact that humanity is not excessively interested in the orthodox presentation of truth, and that our churches are relatively empty and are under private indictment as having failed to teach humanity to live rightly. So I thought to myself, when was this book written? And first printed in 1948. then 56 and 1960. So I am very well aware that even after World War I, when communism was established, that part of the congressional hearings in the United States, these people who were communists testified that they were infiltrating all facets of society, the religious, educational, medical, economic, everything. And they were going to change the way we all think. And one of the things that they did want to destroy was Christianity. And far back in history, the Knights Templars and the Catholic Church, the Pope and all that, they had a big divide. They even had declared the Knights Templars that accused them of being into some kind of Satanism, and apparently tried to confiscate all their gold and wealth. So there was an internal battle there that there are probably followers of today who are still seeking revenge. So the story goes. And then, of course, we know that for 1,000 years easily, 2,000 years, 2,500 years, when the Jews were forced to leave the Jerusalem area, 2,500 years ago, and a lot of places they went all over the world for 2,500 years. And this isn't anti-Semitism or anything. It's documented fact. I've been reading from it in the Encyclopedia Judaica. But the turmoil was everywhere because apparently the philosophy of these Jewish peoples, wherever they went, caused friction. And again, part of, according to the Encyclopedia Judaica and other books, the culture of many of the Jews, not all of them, the foundation was the Kabbalah, some kind of book on mysticism, which I've been going over, and we'll go over more. Okay, so back to this stuff. So they're saying all the Orthodox, all the historic religious institutions failed to teach humanity to live rightly. That's number one. Number two, we know through the congressional hearings and much more evidence from the New World Order, Illuminati, etc., that they are infiltrating society and trying to get everybody away from God and Christianity. Just like Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote in his 2 books, I made videos on those, to eliminate the opate. The opate means people's belief in God and the control of the church over mankind. There is this war going on. Good and evil. I think it's clear, and I think I'll be able to show that in some upcoming videos. Alright. These affirmations are distressingly true, but the fact still remains that human beings everywhere are searching for spiritual release and truth, and that the truly religious spirit is more fundamentally alive than at any other previous time. This is especially true of those countries which have suffered the most of the late World War, 1914 to 1945, which I find interesting in a lot of this New Age and Theophist society and even the Masonic books and teachings. They classify World War I and World War II as the late World War, like it's one World War. And I suspect whatever happens next, if there is a World War III, and finally it's over, could be 2020, 2025, I don't know. But they'll probably classify all 3 of them as one World War. And if we remember, Albert Pike, in his letter to his friend in Italy, Mazzini, 1871 or something, I was looking that up the other day, that there would be required 3 world wars to bring about the New World Order. And this chapter I'm reading here in the Reappearance of the Christ is the New World Religion. It's funny how all this stuff comes together. Countries such as the United States and the neutral countries show as yet no sign of any real spiritual revival. So they were waiting and working towards a spiritual revival, which means the destruction of Christianity and other religions, and the acceptance by the world's people of the New Age, which involves this channeling of entities, angels, masters, demons, Lucifer himself. I have some of the documents. They're channeling even Lucifer. And they have this new theology, this new way of thinking, a kind of a new law with this new age, new world order. Religion. The other countries are spiritually alive. So the ones where a lot of countries in the east over there near Ukraine and all that, Poland, they were seriously into this spiritualism. And from 1840 to 1940, the Psychic Research Society of Europe and then the Psychic Research Society of America were well alive. They were very active. They were having seances everywhere, table rappings, bringing apparitions and of ghosts into the room so people could see their dead relatives, speak to them. I've gone over that. We'll be going over more of that in future videos. So anyways, the other countries are spiritually alive, so they were getting into spiritualism, which means communicating with spirits. Not along orthodox lines, but in a true search and a vital demand for light. Searching for the light. Lucifer is called the light bearer. Lucas Truss in this book means light. We're going to hear these words over and over again in these other books and documents I've been going over for the last week. The religious spirit of humanity is today more definitely focused upon reality than has ever been the case. The orthodox world religions are rapidly falling into the background of men's minds, even whilst we are undoubtedly approaching nearer to the central spiritual reality. So what is this new spiritual reality? Is there a new spiritual reality? The theologies now taught by the religious organizations, both in the East and in the West, are crystallized and of relatively little use. So remember, this is the opinion. Alice Bailey, who took control of the Theophist Society after Helena Blavatsky died. So I'm not sure if she was the second one or, let's see, Alice Bailey. I'll think of the other name. I was looking for the book. Alright, priests and churchmen, orthodox instructors and fundamentalists, fanatical but sincere. So they're calling all these people who are previously, when I grew up, the priest, I grew up Catholic, went to even private Catholic school for a while. People went to Baptist church schools and Baptist churches and Protestant and all that. It says here, priests and churchmen, orthodox instructors and fundamentalists, fanatical though sincere. So the older people who still believe in the old ways, I guess, would be called fanatical also. Even though when we see the people today in the New Age, a lot of people in the streets with tons of body piercings and skulls and bones and demons tattooed all over their body, I guess they're not fanatical. Seems kind of weird to me that the people would put a demon. I saw this one young girl, good-looking girl, and had a big demon right here. And of course, a lot of people have seen some of the outrageousness that seems to be mind-controlling the people. Even when I was raising a couple boys for a while, they got the Pokemon chips. And I said to myself later on, the young people are going to look like them Pokemon chips. And a lot of people jokingly now tell me, you know, Rick, you were right. So it is mind control. With even the TV programming, the cartoons, play them backwards, and apparently you can hear satanic voices and words. And so much more. We've all seen it. Are seeking to perpetrate that which is old and which sufficed in the past to satisfy the inquirer, but now fails to do so. So they're saying the old ways don't work anymore. So they would have everybody believe. It was all intentional, even in congressional hearings, and back in the 1920s, U.S. Congress, with the communists, they said they were going to do all this. Who were the communists? That was an offshoot of the Bolshevik Jewish people who espionage and military tactics went into Russia, abducted the Tsar and his family, assassinated him, took over the country, proceeded to kill, so they say, 100 million Christians and other good people. And apparently because it was revenge for the 1,000 years or whatever of the difficult times they had under the rulership of the Tsar in Russia, the leadership. So you get, yet again, another example of many, in many countries, the Jews were expelled from Spain, from England, and many other countries during the course of the last 2,000 years. So, why? What is the problem? Why do we have to have this new religion, this new age, and what does it teach? And I'm not trying to be anti-Semitic, which I think is a crazy thing to say to a guy like me. I believe that Jesus was real and that he was the Messiah. And if I'm not mistaken here, he was Jewish. He was Hebrew. So the Messiah I believe in is Hebrew. So I suppose that would make me Hebrew. That would be ridiculous to call me anti-Jewish when Jesus was Jewish. And people say, well, Jesus didn't exist. And I like to jokingly say, what is the date on the calendar today? It's 2017. Why is it 2017 on the calendar? It's because it's dated from when Jesus was born. And there's so much evidence, as we will see even in this book, that Jesus was real. At the same time, along with all seekers, they're demanding a new revelation. So this is what this Theophist Society book says. Remember, publisher, Lucifer Publishing Company, Theophist Society. So I'm not trying to preach this stuff as the truth. I'm saying this is their philosophy. And when we go into the channeled information by many channelers and many books I've gone over, it just might behoove us to pay attention to the philosophy and the thinking that's in this book. They seek something new, arrested by what to attract the masses back to God. They fear that something must be relinquished and that new interpretations of old truths must be found, but fail to realize that a new outlook upon the truth as it is in Christ must be attained. They sense the approach of new impending spiritual revelations, but are apt to shrink back from their revolutionary efforts. So the people who believe in the old ways don't want to go with the new ways. The people who want to bring us the new ways apparently are into some Luciferian religion, if I want to be plain spoken about it. They ask themselves many questions. They are assailed by deep and disturbing doubts. It is interesting here to note that the answers to these questions come, as will increasingly come, from two sources. And remember, they're mind-controlling we the people. And anybody who doesn't believe that just needs to look around and read a few books. They're spying on us, even watching us through our TVs, Gwen towers, fake cell phone towers, cell phones, HARP, H-A-R-P, all kinds of technologies. most people with common sense know that this thing is growing to an extreme point where at some point we're all going to be in huge trouble. They're preparing for something big, in my opinion, and many others. So it says here, it will increasingly come from two sources. So if they're doing mind control, here's one source. Per this book on page 138. The thinking masses. Now they make TV shows calling them zombies. Whose growing intellectual perception is the cause of the revolt from orthodox religion. So they're saying most of society are much more intellectual now, and that's the reason for the revolt of religion. And according to what I see on the news, recently, even the leader of the CIA, I think the other day, said there is a... Who was it that said that? Rothschilds? Somebody said that never before has America sunk to the low depths of education, that it's a pending catastrophe. But this book says these people are growing intellectual perception is the cause of the revolt from the orthodox religion, and from that overshadowing source of truth and light, which has unfailingly brought revelation down the ages. The answers will come, as far as one can see, from any religious organization, whether from the Asia area or Western Europe, Western civilization, America, England, France, Germany. Some of these questions can be expressed as follows. Why has the church been unable to arrest the overpowering expression of evil, as evidenced in the late World War? So they had the 1914 to 1945, calling it one World War, when most of us think about it as World War I and World War II. Why has religion proved inadequate to the need of humanity? Well, they've infiltrated the governments. A lot of us are aware of that. They've infiltrated the churches. A lot of us are aware of that. The congressional hearings said that. The evidence is clear. Corrupt people are running this. So these same corrupt people are the same people who are part of these societies, bringing us the new age. The ones who have ruined our world to the point where it is now. I'm actually a positive thinking person myself, and I think we can all turn this around. But ignoring and not believing in God is not the way, because we are all spiritual beings. And that's why they don't want you to pray, like Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote those two books to eliminate the Opate, Volume 1, Volume 2. They're trying to preach a Sabbatean, satanic, Luciferian, Kabbalistic type of religion. And a world like the Hunger Games movie, Divergent, Mad Max the movie. They have a perception of reality that they want to bring about. So the evidence shows. Why have so-called spiritual leaders of the religious world proved themselves incompetent to aid in the solution of the world's problems? Why, as exponents of the God of love, have Christian teachers been unable to arrest the unparalleled growth of hate in the world today? Well, they're telling teachers what they can and can't do, and the Freemasonic and other organizations, secret societies, haven't wanted the Christian schools to be in control, and what they teach in the public schools is what they said they were going to teach in those congressional hearings in the 1920s with the communism. And I've got the books, and I've gone over that in previous videos. Why are the majority of such teachers so sectarian, separative, dominational in their approaches to truth? There is, however, a spiritual, open-minded minority. Why do the young people refuse to go to church and lack interest to accept the doctrines presented for their belief? And I used to try to go to church on Sundays. Of course, we all saw the news of the priest in child sex, young boys. And now we got the pizza gate during the President Donald Trump Hillary Clinton election, and finding out that there is a worldwide human trafficking, child abduction, and apparently even the satanic rituals of human sacrifice and child sacrifice going on everywhere. No small thing. Look it up. You won't want to believe it, but I don't think ignoring it is going to make it go away. But that's just me. I think people need to wake up and understand. The right people need to be in charge of the world, not the wrong people. Okay, why do young people refuse to go to church and lack interest to accept the doctrines presented by their belief? Why is death and not life stalking the world today? Why do so many new cults arise and sidetrack the people away from orthodox organizations of a religious nature? So I said, I was going over some of these channelers, popular people on the internet, not trying to say which ones are bad or good. I'm just going to review some of them and show what they say. Quite interesting. Why does mental science, the unity movement, and the new thought presentation attract people away from the better established organizations? Note the use of the word organizations. It holds the key to the problems. Why is there a growing emphasis upon the Eastern theologies, upon the various yogas, upon Buddhistic teachings, and Oriental faiths? Why do such teachings as astrology, numerology, and various magical rituals find so many adherents? Magical rituals. And one of the witchcraft rituals is sacrificing a human. It's their ultimate ceremony. For a Christian, I guess it would be Easter or Christmas. But to a witch, it would be sacrificing a human. The Illuminati have been accused of that. And then there's blood libel with the ancient Jewish people. Do they still do that with their Kabbalistic rituals? I'm going to go over the materials and books. I'm reading about 5 or 6 different books at the same time right now. So that's why I had to ponder this stuff for about a week or so, thinking, what do I really want to talk about? How am I going to put everything I've been talking about in context? How am I going to connect the dots? What's behind all this? So why do such teachings as astrology, numerology, various magical rituals find so many adherents, whilst the churches remain empty and are only attended by old people, the conservatives, so they want to blame the conservatives, the reactionaries, and by those who go there by force of habit and desperate unhappiness? Who controls the world today? I continue to say this, but I recall that in the Israeli Congress, Prime Minister Sharon, they were having an argument about taking over the Palestinians' land, killing the Palestinians, the forward movement of the Zionist movement. And somebody said, we can't keep doing this. The U.S. will maybe cut off the money supply, cut off military aid, whatever. And Prime Minister Sharon exclaimed, don't worry about the USA. We control the USA. So I believe he was telling the truth. I don't know if you ever got in an argument or somebody made you angry and you shouted something out. Something later on you wish you didn't say. And of course, right after that, Prime Minister Sharon was in a coma. So they didn't want him to have to explain that, apparently. What is wrong, finally, with our presentation of the spiritual realities and the truth of the ages. Many answers can be given. The most important one is that the presentation of divine truth, as given by the churches in the West, Europe, America, etc., and by the teachers in the East, has not kept pace with the unfolding intellect of the human spirit. Next page here. I guess that's all I highlighted on that page. So I wanted to talk about something else for a moment, then get back to this book. I just want to introduce a project that I have undertaken lately to try to explain some of this new age, this runaway new religion that seems to be coming, the new way of thinking. And how does it compare to what the Bible teaches and other religions? So I made this big chart here. I'll go slowly and hold it. But I'm looking up all the different famous people and organizations that do channeling of entities, whether they be Palladian entities, masters, angelic being, demons, Lucifer, Masonic organizations. So I still have a few to fill in. And to do the research with that chart, is I've made this big thick book. And all of those different channelers, and even some of them are deceased, older ones like Edgar Casey, even Aleister Crowley, Mrs. Cecil Cook, J.Z. Knight, Don Enkins, Brahma Kumaris, Sheila Gilhart, Ernest Norman. I've got books by these people. They've written many books from the information they received by this channeling, speaking to these people in another dimension. Madame Helena Blavatsky, Helen Schumann, Daryl Enka, Reverend Christine Hayden, Georgios Sirs Hatton, he's the one involved in the Phoenix Journals, Valerie Donner, Nancy Leader, Zeta Talk, Natalie Glasson, Lee Carroll, Jane Roberts, and Esther Hicks. She channels Abraham, which is a group of beings on the other side, the amazing power of deliberate intent, law of attraction, ask and it is given, the vortex. Helen Schumann, inner voice, she talks to Jesus and wrote a book, A Course in Miracles. Helena Blavatsky, we've been going over that, the Theophist Society, with the same one here with Alice Bailey, with the book I'm going over. She was communicating with the Manhatmas, some masters, Kut Hamoni and Moya. And another one of her associates was Henry Olcott, the Mahatmas, Hindu, Kashmir. But the beings he was talking to weren't necessarily just Hindu and in the Buddhist area. They were also Tibetans, Chinese, Japanese, Siamese, and Coptics. So these masters don't have to be just Hindu from India. And you got Edgar Casey. We know he did 25,000 or more readings. Half of them in his life were for health, for people who couldn't get cured by the doctor, seeking some divine revelation, and he would go into a trance. Then somebody, about 20 years after he was doing that, suggested a life reading. He found out he could do that really well. And he spent the next 20 years doing life readings, and there are many books on that, and I've been going over that. And then, of course, you got Brahma Kumaris, which does Raja Yoga meditation. And Don Enkins and Carla Ruckart. We're going to go over this stuff. These are future videos, books I have on these authors. these channelers, these psychics. He was doing the law of one, the raw material, something David Wilcock talks a lot about. So you see why I'm getting into this? Because I'm seeing it on videos all the time right now. And then, of course, William Aber, Professor William Denton, spiritualist, Professor Michael Faraday, one of the forerunners in electronics, electricity, Thomas Paine, there's a famous American. In 1890 to 1903, they were able to bring about visible, full-form spirits beyond the veil. And you got these websites that you can call up and learn how to channel or get special channeling for yourself, psychic readings. www.ask-angels.com or www.angelic-guides.com. So what I've been doing, which I will go over in future videos and more conversations, because it appears to be pretty interesting. Here's one document I found. The top 10 channelers. I've been going over that. Here's another one here, a well-known person, Flower of Life, and Merkaba Energy. And I'm thinking, Merkaba Energy, wasn't I just talking about that in Jewish mysticism? Here's the Merkaba on those pages. So in this channeling stuff, I'm finding the same stuff that's in the Jewish mysticism, the same stuff that's in the Kabbalah, the same stuff that's in the Theosophist Society, the same stuff that's in the Freemasonry books, Morals and Dogma, and many other books, and so on, and so on, and so on. You can look these people up. So I've got a long ways to go, spending weeks more reading all this stuff from these channelers throughout history. And you can see all my tabs here. These are the ones I've managed to find and print out. Apparently this guy here wrote some very interesting books. Ernest Norman. This is a sample of some of the books I've been collecting. Here's the raw material. You can go online and find this stuff. There's all these readings. The Law of One. We're going to hear a lot about this Law of One. And I've been doing a lot of reading on this stuff, as you can see. So that's one book I acquired. We'll be making book reviews on that. Of course, the other one I've been doing, I just dropped the book. The Edgar Cayce material, and I've got numerous Edgar Cayce books we'll be going over. Of course, I was doing the Phoenix Journals, 120 of them. Apparently, Giorgio Sirius Hanton, on the bottom there, the Phoenix Journals, apparently he's a channeler, or is he just using that as a cover, because he doesn't want the Illuminati, the inside secret societies, to know who he really is. I'll try to figure it out. And then this other series, The Voices of Orion, the Pulse Creation series with Ernest Norman. The Voice of Eros, the Pulse of Creation series, Ernest Norman. So I did find 2 more of these on the used book site. They'll be in the mail in a few days. I've already was reading one of these years ago. There's tabs in there. If you can see the tabs. So I highlighted a lot of material. So I guess I have to spend a lot of hours going over these 4 of the series. I'm not sure that's the entire series. But this was all channeled information. And there's much more. You saw the chart. Wait till we go over some of these people. Nancy Leader, go to Zeta Talk. All channeled information from the Palladians. And why am I talking about this? I'm trying to complete the puzzle here. And I listened to Corey Good and all those other people on Galactic Federation and Antarctica and the aliens invading Earth and some aliens trying to help us save ourselves. And I'm just scratching my head saying, something's pretty suspicious here. So then I go back to this, the reappearance of the Christ, and I'll read more from the book. Maybe it'll all make sense. At least I'm trying to make sense of it. Now remember, they're trying to bring us a new world order. We were looking at the reappearance of the Christ, the New World Religion. And further back in this book, page 115, Christ will teach the law of rebirth. And all this channeling I've been going over is, in many cases, entities who died, who are in spiritual realm, in the spiritual world. So now in this book here, The Reappearance of the Christ, published by Lucifer Publishing Company, and blood apparently on the inside. Whoever was studying this before I got it took lots of notes, was real serious. It says some crazy things. They seriously support Freemasonry organizations, etc. So let me continue reading from this. And hopefully this entire video will make a little sense and you'll see why I wanted to have the conversation. Christ will teach the law of rebirth. Is that reincarnation? This law is the major corollary of the law of evolution. It has never been grasped or properly understood in the West. That would be Europe and America, etc. And in the East, where it is acknowledged as the governing principle of life, it has not proved useful because it has been sporadic in its effect and a detriment to progress. So wait a minute. In the East, the Orient, it wasn't useful and a detriment to progress. They want to bring it to the world? The Eastern student regards it as giving him plenty of time. This has negated the driving effort to achieve a goal. So apparently you can be reborn and reborn and reborn to grow your soul. So if you want to just kind of waste a life and do nothing, don't worry. You'll be reborn. Get another chance. And maybe in the next life, you won't decide to just waste it again. Don't worry. You'll be reborn to do it again. But apparently after so many times and your failure to improve your soul, according to these teachings, not me, this is not a religion I'm preaching, I'm reading the book and explaining what I read. But if you don't improve your soul, if you are deemed a waste of time, you will be spewed out of Earth's atmosphere into space, into the currents of the galaxy. So it says it here. The Eastern student regards it as giving him plenty of time that has negated the driving effort to achieve a goal. The average Christian confuses the law of rebirth with what he calls the transmigration of souls, and frequently believes that the law of rebirth signifies the passing of human beings into the bodies of animals or of lower forms of life. I don't know, I'm a Christian. I never thought we die and our souls go into animals or plants. Such is by no means the case. Well, that's good. As the life of God progresses onwards through, so they acknowledge there's a God here, FYI. Page 116. So it says here, as the life of God progresses onwards through form after form, that life in these subhuman kingdoms of the nature proceeds progressively from mineral forms into vegetable forms, and from vegetable forms into animal forms, and from animal form stage, the life of God passes into the human kingdom and becomes subject to the law of rebirth and not the law of transmigration. So apparently the law of transmigration is a spirit entity, might start out in a rock, and then go into a plant, and go into an animal, and then go into a human, and then it switches to the law of rebirth, not transmigration. Just explaining what it says here. I'm not preaching this stuff. Let's make that clear. To those who know something of the law of rebirth or of reincarnation, the mistake seems ridiculous. The doctrine or theory of reincarnation strikes the Orthodox Christian with horror. I don't know why reincarnation would scare a Christian. Not that that's what I was ever taught, but if that were the case, it wouldn't freak me out. Yet if one asks him about the question which the disciples asked Christ, about the blind man, Master, did this man sin or his fathers that he was born blind? So a lot of people have asked these perplexing questions. You know, why am I in the situation I am? What did I do to deserve it? And I kind of believe that life on earth, the spirit being in these biological human bodies, is some kind of school. I've always thought that intuitively since I was a young boy. But that's just me. I have faith in God and I believe in Jesus, and apparently that's the price Jesus paid so that we people like me who are sinners will be saved. So apparently if you're going to be saved from your sins, you do not have to be reincarnated. Just create some perplexing thoughts and questions in our minds. So that was in John 9-2 in the Bible. They refuse the implications, or they express amusement or dismay, as the case may be. So in this book, they kind of trying to disprove stuff in the Bible, which is okay. They can do what they want to do. But people out there in the world, we the people, the citizens of the planet, we need to take control of our own brains and not let somebody mind control us. I'm not trying to mind control anybody. I want people to go buy these books and do a little homework, and I believe the biblical adage, the old saying, seek and ye shall find. I think that's pretty much proven to be the case for many people. Once you start looking, be careful. You're going to uncover lots of truth, and it can become quite disturbing. Of course, a lot of people want to go, apathy is bliss, Rick. Just party and party on. Don't worry about it, even though we know World War III might be coming. Or the people who want to control the world and depopulate it might release a plague, a nuclear bomb, a mass wave of terrorists, destroy the economy, whatever. Mind control everybody with particles in our bodies from the sky-sprayed metals and the electromagnetic waves and computer programs. How advanced are they? What can they do? Moving on here. They have gone high-tech. And, by the way, that's one of the reasons I'm into the channeling material. I am aware, like with Nikolai Tesla and many people on this chart, including the Hitler regime, Nazis, they were definitely into communication with other beings to receive these high technologies. Who would have thunk of that? It all comes together. Back to the book. The presentation to the world of the thought by the average occult or theophist exponent has been, on the whole, deplorable. So let me read that again. The presentation to the world of the thought by the average occult and theophist exponent has been, on the world, deplorable. So Alice Bailey of the Theophist Society, taking over after Helena Blavatsky of the Theophist Society, who had the magazine, Lucifer magazine, and Lucifer Publishing Company, the people before them weren't presenting this New Age really well. They call it deplorable, the way they were teaching it. So apparently they're teaching it better now. Mind control. It has been deplorable because it has been so unintelligently presented. Well, you see all those pages I printed out on all those famous people who are into channeling for the last couple hundred years. And biblically, you know, for thousands of years, there have been prophets who were channeling information from the divine. Nothing new here. Even creatures, Nephilim, watchers, archons, and all kinds of beings, angels, demons are mentioned in the Bible. So there's nothing new about the aliens and UFOs today. And a civilization existed before the Great Flood that was seriously technologically advanced to what we have today. There's no mistake in that. So why would the powers that be, God, create a Great Flood and destroy everything? And the answer is, if you do any research, is because the DNA was polluted. They were using genetic manipulation and cloning and other stuff, apparently, to create some kinds of beast beings. When the Atlanteans went to Egypt, there were wars over that. And we know in mythology, half horse, half human, and all kinds of other creatures. So the God-created DNA was polluted, and it had to be erased and start over. The best that can be said is that they have familiarized the general public with the theory. So they're talking about teaching this New Age. Had it, however, been more intelligently presented, it might have been more generally accepted in the West, Europe and America. Remember, this book was published in 1948. If the goal of right human relations will be taught universally by the Christ, the emphasis of his teaching must be laid upon the law of rebirth. So I guess for teaching, the new religion will be based on the law of rebirth. This is inevitably so because the recognition of this law will be found the solution to all the problems of humanity and the answer to much of the human questioning. And if you read some of this channeled information from these people who are channeling entities like Ra, or even God and Jesus and Lucifer, I found. And these teachings are being put into books, and these are what people are learning now. The new religion is going to be what was told to all these channelers by these beings on the other side. Are they demons and the watchers who were cast out of heaven? Are some of them benevolent and really looking out for us? Angelic? That's the question I have in mind. I'm going to read, and I'm going to take this whole chart and try to find a video on every one of these people before I move on to the next phase of this, and print out a couple pages, Wikipedia, their own webpage, whatever, and read it, and collect some of their books, and maybe I'll have come to some kind of conclusion of what I think, who is who and what is what. I'll try anyways. This doctrine will be one of the keynotes of the New World Religion. So this law of rebirth will be one of the doctrines of the New World Religion, as well as the clarifying agent for a better understanding of world affairs. And I will be continuing to go over the Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah and the New World Order people and the Freemasonic organizations and the Illuminati. I circle around and around and around. I have so many books. But it's funny, the more I learn, the more the information makes sense. When Christ was here in person before, so this book acknowledges that Christ was here in person before. He emphasized the fact of the soul and the value of the individual. He told men that they could be saved by the life of the soul and of the Christ within the human heart. So when you accept Christ as your Savior, that's Christ in the human heart. He also said that except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. John 3-3. Only souls can function as citizens of the kingdom, and it was this privileged functioning that he held for the first time before humanity, thus giving man a vision of divine possibility and an unalterable conclusion to experience. I get a little worn out when speaking. Pardon me. He told them to be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Matthew 5:48. This time he will teach men the method whereby this possibility can be accomplished, to be perfect. So they're saying Jesus is coming back. They don't call him Jesus, they call him the Christ, the anointed one. Okay, this can be accomplished. You can become perfect through the constant return of the incarnating soul to the school of life on earth, there to undergo the perfecting process of which he was the outstanding example. This is the meaning and teaching of reincarnation. Dane Reinhardt, in his book New Mansions for the New Men, page 123, gives a satisfying definition of this mysterious cosmic and human process. Remember, I'm reading this here now, the return of the Christ, the reappearance, because when we do read the messages in the channeled material, whether it's Esther Hicks or Nancy Leader, Edgar Casey, Cecil Cook, J.Z. Knight, so many people here on this list, we have to listen to their messages. What are they saying? Are they all saying the same thing? If they are from some kind of heaven or some divine world, are they all saying the same thing? Or are they all, some of them giving different messages? Are some of those messages good, consistent with the Ten Commandments, don't steal and don't kill? And are some of those channeled informations teaching, you can do whatever you want? Aleister Crowley. If you want to have sex with young children, the law of do as thou wilt applies. So some of it might be teaching evil, anti-God, anti-Ten Commandments, and some of it might be teaching what Jesus taught and what the Bible teaches. So it takes a little bit of time, but I have to watch all those videos. I have to sit back, have some coffee, have some lunch, and just days and days and days and try to get a clue. And you can do this too. Just put channeling on your computer. Start taking some notes. Get a notebook like I do. And put this thing together. Alright, so this time he will teach men that method whereby this possibility can become accomplished fact, through the constant return of the incarnating soul to the school of life on earth. So I thought since I was a kid this whole earthly experience was some type of school. There to undergo the perfecting process of which Jesus was the outstanding example. It doesn't say that here, it just says he. This is the meaning and teaching of reincarnation, Dane Reinhardt, in his book New Mansions for the New Men, page 123. He says that the individual structure of the new manifestation is necessarily conditioned by the unfulfillment of the past, by the remains, the failures of the past, preserved in the records of the nature of the memory of universal substance. The whole story, yours and mine, and that of everyone, is covered in those few words. So I guess I'll read those few words again, so maybe they can be clearer to me. Maybe you got them. Sometimes when you read other people's paragraphs, they're a little confusing. The individual structure of the new manifestation is necessarily conditioned by the unfulfillment of the past, by the remains, the failures of the past, preserved in the records of nature, in the memory of universal substance. So apparently, when we're born, our spirits have some kind of connection to our past, and all those mistakes are lessons learned, and we use that to become more perfect beings. Is that what they're saying here? It should be remembered that practically all of the occult groups, here we go, occult groups, secret societies, people who swear under threat of having their throat cut not to divulge the secrets to the rest of us. So that practically all the occult groups and writings have foolishly laid the emphasis upon past incarnations and upon their recovery. This recovery is incapable of any reasonable checking. Anyone can say and claim anything they like. The teaching has been laid upon imaginary rules, supposed to govern their time equation and the interval between lives, forgetting that the time is a faculty of the brain consciousness, and that divorced from the brain, time is non-existent. The emphasis has always been upon a fictional presentation of relationships. The teaching heretofore given out on reincarnation has done more harm than good. So they're saying what everybody thinks they know about reincarnation has done more harm than good. Only one factor remains of value. The existence of the law of rebirth is now discussed by many and accepted by thousands. This is 1948, and I'm here to tell you now, the channeling and New Age material is out of control. The symbolism is everywhere. The Luciferian symbolism, the satanic symbolism. Where's it going to take us? If you've been watching my videos, you know I have lots of books. About 600, I think. So I just look at a couple books, just to kind of get some relative idea what we're talking about. Astral Voyages. Mastering the Art of Interdimensional Travel. Astral Voyages, Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Free yourself from the limitation of the earth plane and the laws of space and time with the help of Astral Voyages. So I was listening to Esther Hicks. Was it her? One of them, and she said like in a 365-day year, she might be out of her body half the year, and this other entity takes over, the Abraham entities or whatever. And they're the ones who are giving all the readings that are teaching people. So what about these entities on the other side that can take over somebody's body? Even in the Bible there are many examples of possession. Even Jesus cast out demons about 12 times. Here's another book. Just making a point here. I've got a lot of books to read on these topics, and the whole conversations becomes more understandable, which is important, by the way. This is series number 96, and I'm up to 121 series. I've got about 340 videos published. Well over close to 500 hours, plus or minus. And regrettably, it's such a vast spectrum of thinking. You got to go back and start at the beginning. You may print out the cheat sheet of mine on my rickmiracle.com website, top left corner. But you have to have some kind of system and go through these different topics. The New World Order, ancient religions, Christianity, Kabbalah, Judaism, UFO aliens, remote viewing, psychic research, mind control. It'll come to you, but you're not going to get it all in one video. An investigation into the occult and psychic phenomenon. Jim Marrs, PSI Spies. Even David Morehouse and other authors of books, Tim Rifat, I've read them, made videos on them. Made a video on this one called 29, as you can see there. Even they say that when you are traveling in the astral plane, you can run into some pretty horrific creatures. It is no small undertaking. You can be devoured. The Book of Enoch talks about it. And so much more. Dark Secrets of the New Age. Remember, Text Marrs. The other one was Jim Marrs. So these books are available. Confronting the New Age. My little cheat sheet, but I just scan from the top here. Secret Societies and Subversive Movements, that's series number 70. The Dearborn Independent, volume 3, 71. Got the wrong name here, I think, on my cheat sheet. Then you got the Black Sun, Peter Moon. The Montauk Project, mind control, creating portals, throwing children into another dimension, not knowing where they're sending them, and not being able to retrieve them. Blue Blood, True Blood by Stuart Swervelo. He talks a lot about this research, black op projects by the government, mind control, time travel, if it's all true. And apparently, if this whole world we're living in is one big holographic, albeit a very realistic one, I can feel this book with my hand, so I think, then if it is all some kind of manifested reality, I suppose the Philadelphia experiment and time travel and all that would be possible, plausible. The Case for UFOs, Morris Jessup. So I made a lot of videos on various topics that seem to all be connected. Morals and Dogma, Series 85. Encyclopedia of the Psychic World, Series number 86. Technique of the Master into Initiation to these Secret Societies. Series number 87. Book Review 87. You can go look it up. The Theosophy and Social Reconstruction by H.P. Blavatsky. She makes no bones about it. They plan on reconstructing society. Holy Serpent of the Jews, Text Marrs, the Holocaust Dogma of Judaism. So there's no doubt in my mind that there are people who want to bring about this new age of aristocratic Zionist people's control. Protocols of Zion, the Jewish Utopia, Professor Higger, stuff I made videos on. Masonry Conspiracy Against Christians, Ralph Epperson. A Separate Reality, Carlos Castienda, series number 92. Remember, that's where the shamans, and like in Mexico, they take the peyote and other kinds of drugs to go into trance, to go into this astral world. The New World Order by Ralph Epperson. The Reappearance of the Christ, Alice Bailey, 96. That's where we're making part 2 on. So that was just one sheet of 4 sheets I have here on my videos. What I'm trying to say is, you got to go pick and choose and watch numerous of these, and it doesn't have to be my videos, but create some kind of organizational chart of the different topics you want to investigate and see how they connect. I wanted to go through this one, but I don't think I'm ready. But apparently if you read Astral Dynamics, a new approach to out-of-body experience, so maybe, yeah, I don't think I should travel in the astral plane and leave my body. I can hear that if you're not spiritually prepared, it can be a devastating, it can be a deadly experience. We live in a very weird world right now. So back to this book, now that I've shown all that. Now we were talking about the teaching heretofore given out on reincarnation has done more harm than good. Only one factor remains of value. The existence of the law of rebirth is now discussed by many and accepted by thousands, and this was 1948. So we know now that, as this book, all these pages I have, look at these pictures. And I did Ascension on Yahoo image site. Yahoo image site. And each of these pictures, look at this beast on the bottom there with the horns. Anyways, when you go to Yahoo image site, put in Ascension, and some of these other topics you may be interested in, each of those pictures has a link to a website. So there's an abundance of research material out there to continue to prove that they are bringing about some kind of new paradigm, and I am convinced it's Luciferic. It's satanic. And it's not the way I want to go. I'll stick with God and the Ten Commandments. That's just me. So back to this book. And again, I'm not trying to teach this stuff as truth. I'm trying to show what they are teaching. And then let people decide for themselves. Beyond the fact that there is such a law, the law of rebirth, we know little, and those who know from experience the factual matter of this return reject earnestly the foolish and improbable details given out as fact by the theosophical and occult bodies. Alright, let me continue on and try to finish this video. It's Friday, May 12th, 5:19 in the evening. Alright, moving on here. The law exists. Of the details of its working, we know as yet nothing. Only a few things can be said with the accuracy about it, and these few warrant no contradiction. So apparently there is this law of rebirth, and they admit here they don't know everything, but apparently they think they know something. I'll show you the 2 pages. So they're all numbered there, some kind of laws. So why don't I read them? The law of rebirth is a great natural law upon our planet. Number 2, it is a process instituted and carried forward under the law of evolution. So this law of rebirth of souls, according to this teaching, not my teaching, I'm just saying. So when I do watch the channeled information by all those channelers, Madam Helenita Blavatsky to Daryl Aka, Reverend Christine Hayden, all these people who, Christine Hayden channels Lord Buddha. So it's going to be fascinating when I do a more in-depth thing on this channeling all these famous people throughout history. And this is only the current ones I'm going over in the last 100 years or so. It is closely related to and conditioned by the law of cause and effect. So that's one of the karmatic teachings, karma, the New Age teaching. Remember, Jesus said, "He whoever believes in me shall be saved." So that's like you're exempt from maybe these other laws, the old laws. Because all of us make mistakes and are not perfect. That means we sin. And apparently God loves humans, and that was one of the teachings as a way to be saved. And God sent Jesus to teach this stuff. I'm not a religious scholar. I have some fundamental beliefs, but I'm learning more all the time. Some people get mad at me making comments on my videos, telling me I shouldn't read this other stuff. Shouldn't read any of this stuff and see what they're saying. I should only read the Bible. And if that's what they would like to do, that's wonderful. But I read the Bible and this stuff. And I try to use my brain and some logic. And my determination is, it's pretty clear. There's good and evil out there. And it is a battle, and we are at war. And the leadership of most of the world apparently is siding with the rich, wealthy, elite, power-hungry people. And if we don't wake up, the rest of us are in trouble. But luckily for us, if you have faith in God and Jesus, I believe you have a huge strength there, and that they feared that. That's why Rabbi Marvin Entelman wrote the book, To Eliminate the Opate. He's trying to tell us that they don't want you to believe in God and pray. All right, back to these laws. It is a process of progressive development, enabling men to move forward from the grossest forms of unthinking materialism. Here we go. They don't want people to be materialistic. To the spiritual perfection and an intelligent perception, which will enable man to become a member of the kingdom of God. Number 5, it accounts for the differences among men in connection with the law of cause and effect, called the law of karma in the East. It accounts for differences in circumstances and attitudes in life. So they're saying, you know, somebody might wind up growing up in a poor family or blind, and apparently it has something to do with karma. Number 6, it is the expression of the will aspect of the soul and is not the result of any form decision. So they're admitting we have souls here. It is the soul in all forms which reincarnates, choosing and building suitable physical and emotional and mental vehicles through which to learn the next needed lessons. All right, number 7. The law of rebirth, as far as humanity is concerned, comes into activity upon the soul plane. Incarnation is motivated and directed from the soul level upon the mental plane. Number 8. Souls incarnate in groups, psychically, under law, and in order to achieve right relations with God and with their fellow men. So I've read a lot about reincarnation and the New Age, and apparently if you're reincarnated, people that you know in your circle, immediate family, friends, in your life, were people you knew in a previous life. And apparently there's some method to the madness why everybody gets to interact again. It's according to some of the New Age teaching. As I said before, if you watch the channeled material that I'm going to go over, on your own, and you need to just take a notebook and write down some of these teachings and see if they're all similar, what the differences are, where they're coming from. Are there good entities out there trying to help us? Or are there evil entities out there trying to destroy us? Or are there both? Is there a huge UFO base in Antarctica? Are there huge ships orbiting in orbit right now, ready to invade planet Earth? Is the Galactic Federation trying to help us? Stephen Greer, Corey Goode, David Wilcock, and so many more are talking about these things. So that's why I thought I would get into some of this research to kind of counterbalance it in my brain and in my videos. What is really going on? Who's really out there? What do they really want? David Wilcock and some of those people are saying the cabal, the Illuminati, the evil ones, the banksters, they're being destroyed, they're being arrested. I don't see it. I see it's more of the same, but even moving at a faster pace forward to this new world order, this new world catastrophe that these evil forces want to bring. I hope I'm wrong. Number 9, progressive unfoldment under the law of rebirth is largely conditioned by the mental principle, for as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Some of this stuff makes sense. I know personally that I have been appalled by what other people, their normal thinking. I was chatting with a male friend of mine once, and I said, yeah, I heard something about that guy, the politician. And he was involved, and his wife divorced him because he was involved in a sexual orgy, part of this satanic rituals, like the Bohemian Grove. And my friend said, yeah, that would be great. I would enjoy that. And I'm thinking, man, you never know what people are thinking. One of my friends pointed to me many years ago and said, look at the computer. And he had a picture of a young child naked. I was shocked beyond belief that a grown man would be doing that. And another time I had a Oriental girlfriend, and she had 2 young children. And she had to go to work at 6 at a major aerospace company. She was a technician. I had to go to work at 8. I was an electronic technician engineering. And so I was responsible to get the kids off to school. And one of my motorcycle buddy friends said, wow, that young girl, I think she was 10. He said, man, you're so lucky. I was appalled by what he was suggesting. So I'm just trying to say, right thinking is important. And there are a lot of people out there who would kill people. Apparently they do, like all the people in the Middle East, 911, to have power and wealth and sexually and mentally abuse people. They're out there. And there's probably more of them than are the rest of us. That's a problem, in my opinion. Just saying, some of these sentences trigger thoughts in my head. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. These are few brief words. Most need careful consideration. So yeah, I do believe we all need to check our thoughts. And I do believe, I've been watching videos, that we are under attack mentally. Whether it's the advanced technologies they have or spiritual beings. But bad thoughts are put into our heads, tempting people all the time. And one religious person was teaching that. I think I talked about it in a previous video. That if you accept Jesus as your Savior, these evil forces are going to attack you more. You need to be on guard. They don't have to attack the people who have already thrown in the pit, who are willing to abuse children and kill and rape and steal. The evil forces don't have to go after them. They've already got them. But we all mentally can choose to save ourselves. And when you get thoughts, you got to question yourself. Is that my thought? Do I approve of that? Not trying to be a preacher here. Just going over some of these laws and this material. Trying to understand some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about in future videos. Trying to make sense of the stuff I've talked about in past videos. With the Jewish mysticism, the Jewish ritual murder, the Illuminati, the witchcraft satanic organizations, the movies they put on TV, the TV programming, the billboard I saw the other day with the water commercial with the 3 6s and the eye in the middle, the satanic ritual they had with the grand opening of the tunnel over there in the Swiss Alps, all grossly satanic. The Eurovision, like American Idol, where Conchita Wurst wins the contest. Wurst means sausage because Cheetah is a female part. He looked like Jesus in the head and a slim woman with a silky dress on the bottom. I showed the pictures. And he sings the song, The Phoenix Rising. And it has the words, "You can't stop us." And then I'm reading this, with blood on the inside, from Lucas Publishing Company. All right. Number 10. Under the law of rebirth, man slowly develops mind. Then mind begins to control the feeling, emotional nature, and finally reveals the soul, and in nature, an environment to man. Its nature and environment to man. Number 11. At that point in his development, the man begins to tread the path of return and orients himself gradually after many lives to the kingdom of God. Number 12. When through a development mentally, wisdom, practical service, and understanding, a man has learned to ask nothing for the separated self, he then renounces desire for life in the 3 worlds and is free from the law of rebirth. So they want people to live with piety, very simple-minded, and want nothing from life. And then you are free from the law of rebirth. 13. He is now group conscious. He is aware of his soul group. So apparently some of this teaching is we have a soul group. And of the soul in all forms, and has attained, as Christ has requested, a stage of Christ-like perfection, reaching unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of the Christ. And apparently that reference here is EPH 4-13. So I've got to look that up. One little bit more here, and I'll finish this video. Beyond this generalization, no intelligent person will attempt to go. So beyond what I just read, those 13 laws, no intelligent person will attempt to go. When Christ reappears, our knowledge will become more true and realistic. We shall know that we are eternally related to the souls of all men, and that we have a definite relationship to those who reincarnate with us, who are learning with us the same lessons, and who are experiencing and experimenting with us. This proven and accepted knowledge will regenerate the very sources of our human being. Human living. We shall know that all of our difficulties and all of our problems are caused by our failure to recognize this fundamental law, with its responsibilities and obligations. We shall then gradually learn to govern our activities by its just and restraining power. The law of rebirth embodies the practical knowledge which men need today to conduct rightly and correctly their religious, political, economic, communal, and private lives, and thus establish right relations with the divine life in all forms. Well, I just checked the time. I think I got about an hour and a half here. So I'll do a few more minutes of this book. Revelation of the mysteries of initiation. So people get initiated into these secrets. Much that is written and which is conveyed in these pages is in reality concerned with the appearance of the kingdom of God. An appearance which can now take place because of three factors. The growth of the kingdom on earth and the thousands of people who recognize its laws and endeavor to live in accordance with its rules and spirit. Number two, the fact that the signs of the time and the widespread need of humanity have evoked the Christ, and that he has decided to reappear. So even in the Jewish Kabbalistic material I was reading, there was debate even with the Jews whether they should try to bring about some kind of situation that evokes the return of the Christ or some Messiah. So he wasn't going to come naturally. They had to bring chaos and anarchy to the earth, according to what I had read previously. So if Lucifer is Satan, and he is the deceiver, when you read this material in a book like this, you have to keep that in your mind. You can get sucked into some of this stuff and start to believe it or think it's the right way. You have to pray to God for discernment. You know, what is right? What is wrong? Show me. Number three, the invocation cry of humanity. So when all of humanity is crying, let's say we have a nuclear war and a nuclear winter. Apparently that's supposed to bring some kind of Messiah or God to earth when everybody is suffering. The invocation cry of humanity is ascending hourly to the secret place of the Most High. And the hierarchy plans to emerge. So this hierarchy plans to emerge. I know the pyramidal hierarchy like the Illuminati at the top. Don't want people to get mad at me. I'm just theorizing. But here's the pyramid. There's the rays behind it. And some kind of two-headed being with wings. And the skull and bones or whatever down here, Fritz Springmeier, the Illuminati. That's the hierarchy. This is the leader. Some people say, Rick, you got the New Age all wrong. I'm reading books. Dark Secrets of the New Age. So number three here, in a book with blood on the inside, by Lucas Trust, formerly Lucifer Publishing Company. The invocational cry of humanity is ascending hourly to the secret place of the Most High. And the hierarchy plans to emerge when Christ appears and restores the rule of the spirit of earth. The hour for the restoration of the ancient mysteries has arrived. The ancient mysteries, all the Egyptian hieroglyphics, Atlantis, a return to the Golden Age. The Zionists desiring a Jewish utopia. So who's this written for? The evil ones or the good people? Who's it written by? The Theophist Society, formerly Lucifer Publishing Company? If common sense prevails, this stuff should be questioned. But it's all being channeled by all those channelers. All this stuff is being propagated on the TV, billboards, radio stations, music. What was that Miley Cyrus song Wrecking Ball, and so many others. Katy Perry's, the lyrics in her new song, quite bizarre. The satanic rituals with Madonna and Beyonce and other people, Super Bowl halftime shows, Lady Gaga, the Olympics openings, the satanic show symbolism at the Emmys and Grammys. Quite colorful, bizarre, but if you pay attention, you see this stuff in the background. No mistake about it. You see it if you look. But a lot of people don't look. All right. So revelation of the mysteries of initiation. It's right after those teachings of the law of rebirth. These facts have been widely given out during the past 2 years. 1948, this book was released. As a result of the cleansing of the earth through the medium of World War 1914-1945. When I read this the other day, the cleansing of the world, 1914 to 1945, a huge portion of Christians were killed. And according to my theory, in Germany, it was the God-fearing Jewish people who lost their lives and put in camps and fleeced of their gold and jewelry and money and everything by the bad people, the Illuminati I just showed you, the Rothschilds who financed the war, built Hitler up. So as the evil forces were trying to destroy the good forces, and many Jewish people have come forward and tried to warn the rest of us about this Illuminati. PhD Henry Macau, Jewish author in Canada, he wrote the book, Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. I'm just putting all this together. So the cleansing of the earth through the medium of World War, 1914 to 1945, they call World War, when it's World War I and World War II to most of us, and through the suffering to which humanity has been subjected, which is an equally potent purifying effect, which we'll demonstrate later. So the suffering that the world has been going through, look at the Middle East, 9/11, destroyed all those towns and cities, murdered many of the people, and then they're deporting the rest of them to Europe and the United States. I'm just putting two and two together. A purifying effect. Page 121. Reappearance of the Christ. It will then be possible for the hierarchy, the Church of Christ, heretofore invisible. So Christ is the anointed one. So is Lucifer going to be the anointed one? To externalize itself and to function openly upon the physical plane. So something is coming. And it's going to, heretofore it was invisible, but it will externalize itself and to function on the physical plane. Will these be the UFOs and aliens? This will indicate a return to the situation which existed in Atlantean days, when, to use biblical symbology, Genesis chapter 2 and 3, God himself walked among men. Wow. Adam and Eve. You know the story? God created Adam and Eve, put them in the garden, said, do not eat of the tree of wisdom, which was, I guess, an apple tree. Symbology, I don't know. But the serpent came along. I don't think it was a little garden snake, probably some kind of reptilian being, and said, don't believe in that God, that something will bad happen to you. That's really good fruit there. So, of course, they ate from it. Then they were banned from the Garden of Eden, and 2 cherubim were put at the gate of the Garden of Eden so that Adam and Eve couldn't get back inside and eat of the tree of life. But apparently when God was walking in the Garden of Eden looking for Adam and Eve before he found out they ate of the tree, they were hiding in the bushes because they were naked, and God said, how do you know you were naked? Did you eat of the tree of wisdom? So if this is all some kind of symbology, a metaphor for what really spiritually happened, I don't know. But that's the story. So God walked among men. He talked with them, and there was no barrier between the kingdom of men and the kingdom of God. Divinity was then present in physical form. So, people are channeling now. Spirits appear. Apparently, even the gray aliens have been known to walk right through walls. So is something happening? Are they using all kinds of satanic rituals to bring about this new thing? Just like they were trying to put that Temple of Baal in New York and London. What was it with that? And of course the Christians and a lot of people got in an uproar, and they changed it to the Temple of Palmyra, or Titan. Still the same, it's probably a portal. It's just a little temple, little archway. Archway. So it's with symbols on it like magic. So some kind of portal between dimensions. Then later on I found out that they were planning on 1,000 of them. And don't believe anything I say without a book in front of me. Right? Take notes and write it down. But they were at UNESCO, out of the United Nations. They were planning on 1,000 of these archways. Possibly some kind of interdimensional portal for these demonic beings to come through into this plane. I'm theorizing again. Can you imagine thousands of portals with these satanic beings coming through, if that's the case? What will people believe? Will it be some huge deception? But it says it right here on page 121. This will indicate a return to the situation which existed in Atlantean days, when, to use biblical symbology, Genesis chapter 2 and 3, God himself walked among men. He talked with them, and there was no barrier between the kingdom of men and the kingdom of God. Divinity was then present in physical form, and the members of the spiritual hierarchy were openly guiding and directing the affairs of humanity as far as man's innate freedom permitted. Whoa, as far as man's innate freedom permitted? Who decides how free we are? Now in the immediate future, or on a higher turn of spiral of life, this will again happen. Oh my. What do people know? The masters, these people that are being channeled by all these channelers, or these masters, that's what they call them, masters, will walk openly among men. The Christ will appear in physical form. Another thing that will happen will be the ancient mysteries will be restored, and the ancient landmarks will again be recognized. Those landmarks which Masonry, get this, has been so earnestly preserved, and which will have been heretofore securely embalmed in the Masonic rituals, waiting the day of restoration and of resurrection. The series is named Freemasonry and Satanism. This book was published by Lucifer Publishing Company, now called Lucas, and it says right here, another thing, page 121 at the bottom, my last paragraph, that will happen will be that the ancient mysteries, we're seeing all those hieroglyphics, Anunnaki aliens and all that, Planet X, Nibiru, ancient mysteries will be restored. The ancient landmarks will again be recognized. These landmarks which Masonry, Freemasons, this is Masonry, Freemasonry and Satanism, Freemasonry and Satanism, Masonry has so earnestly preserved, and which has been heretofore securely embalmed in the Masonic rituals, waiting the day of restoration and of resurrection. Wow. And so that people will know this is true, I'm going to show you this 1948 book by Alice Bailey, the leader of the Theosophist Society, and that's that fundamental culture is based on the Kabbalah, and many Kabbalists were accused of sorcery. And there's blood X on the inside of this, and all kinds of notes from people who studied this book. And here's the stuff about the Freemasons and the other secret societies. Bottom paragraph. That's why I do book reviews. So people can say, I see where you got that. And maybe they'll be motivated to go look it up. It gains some credibility so people can figure out what's going on. Because people used to tell me, Rick, I know something's going on, but I just don't know what. I don't know who they are or what they are. Sounds crazy, you think? Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle Reporting.